Good morning and welcome to the Forex Daily Update, brought to you by Pepperstone on Friday the 31st of August 2018. I'm Darren Sinden and you can follow me throughout the day on Twitter by using @ds_Pepperstone. Right, let's take a look at the overnight changes and price moves to be aware of. And it's a story, I'm afraid, of the dollar making gains in Asia. Further losses for both the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. Weakness again in the Chinese yuan, further weakness in the Indian rupee against the dollar, and a big move down in the fortunes of the Korean won versus the US dollar. And we'll look at some of the reasons behind those moves momentarily. Okay, so what's on the calendar today? Events that may move the markets. Well, we've already had key official manufacturing and non-manufacturing PMI data out of China for the month of August, and we'll look at those in a bit more detail momentarily as well. To come at 6 a.m. GMT, we will have retail sales out of Germany for the month of July, and then at 6:45 we'll have consumer price index data out of France on a year-on-year basis for the month of August, and that'll be followed at 8 a.m. by unemployment out of Italy for the month of July. And then at 9 o'clock, the pick of the European data, we shall have unemployment and CPI data out of the Eurozone. The unemployment data will be for the month of July, and the CPI inflation data will be for the month of August. At 10 o'clock, we're back in Italy for GDP data from the second quarter, both on a quarter-on-quarter basis and a year-on-year read, and then we switch over to the United States at 13:45 GMT this afternoon for the influential Chicago Purchasing Managers Index for the month of August. 1700 will see the release of the Baker Hughes oil rig count. Remember, of course, this is a weekly figure that tracks the number of active drilling rigs there are in the operational in the USA, I should say. Of course, we saw a drawdown in US crude inventories earlier in the week. It will be very interesting to see whether we see a build in the number of oil rigs actively working in the USA as a result of that. And at 23:30 to finish the week, if you're still in the mood for the markets and data, you can see the AIG Performance of Manufacturing Index in August from Australia. Okay, on to breaking news and headlines that have caught my eye overnight. First of all, Asian currencies fall sharply as President Trump threatens to leave the WTO, or World Trade Organization. And just as we thought that there was some headway being made in trade negotiations and a bit of a rapprochement on the part of the Americans, Mr. Trump throws another spanner into the works, if I can put it like that. Meanwhile, China's official PMI stats for August come in ahead of forecasts and show growth in both services and manufacturing areas. So that's positive news for the Chinese economy. I'm inclined to take it with a slight pinch of salt because that data, to my mind, showed a different story to the Caixin and other private PMI surveys. But let's at least treat those numbers at face value for now, even if you do remain slightly sceptical. Japanese industrial production, however, was weaker in July than it was in June, the data shows, and the figures miss forecasts at a read of minus 0.1% versus forecasts of 0.2%, and it posted the second consecutive monthly slowdown in the number. A slight concern then for the Bank of Japan and Shinzo Abe, particularly as Abe now is rumoured to be looking to stand for another 3 years in office. Okay, food for thought, something to take away with you into the trading day and beyond, and why not think about this? The global climate, environment and our treatment of them are becoming increasingly important to investors and voters. But there is still much work for us to do, and some of this will require tough choices, considerable investment and large social and behavioural changes on our part. The hardest changes to make will be in the key industries and infrastructures that support our societies. And the chart opposite just shows how embedded some of these emissions are into, or emission productions are into our society. The quote here is that 25% of global emissions are difficult to eliminate, requiring massive research, investments, or a change in service levels, or indeed both. And you can see here electricity generation, transport, production of cement, iron and steel, heat generation, etc. are all what you might call embedded carbon emissions, and as I say, those will be the hardest ones to eliminate from the global economy. Okay, thank you for your time this morning. Please take a moment to read the risk warning. Trading CFDs and foreign exchange on margin can be a risky business. If you're in any doubt about those risks or the suitability of leverage products for you, then please do contact your Pepperstone account representative and do take a moment to read this risk warning.